Welcome to Flip the Script, where we tell the story. We're all about celebrating culture, creativity, and content. And on today's episode, we're going to be taking a look into the film industry and some of the creative thinkers behind the film industry, especially the Black film industry. So to help me do this, I've got a very special guest. Welcome, Anthony.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
No worries. So just to get us started, tell us a bit about yourself, your interest in film, how you got into film, before we really dig into what it is that you actually do.
Sure. So my name is Anthony Andrews. I'm the co-founder and creative director of a company called We Are Parable. And We Are Parable is an award-winning film exhibition and distribution company. And we're all about providing opportunities to audiences around the world to experience and respond to Black cinema in culturally relevant, unique and memorable ways. And I guess how I started in the film industry was by watching films, from very early on. I remember watching Do the Right Thing when I was very young, probably too young to watch it. But I remember watching it at home and just being blown away of what films can do, and just how that film just really left an imprint on me, and it allowed me to want to go out and discover more films. And I think the way that We Are Parable got started was just about wanting to see those films that I grew up with on the big screen. So myself and my wife, Tian Andrews, we started up an opportunity to watch Coming to America in the cinema, because we were too young to watch it on the big screen. We only watched it through our fingers when we were younger. So as we got older, we were like, we've never seen it on the big screen. Let's go to our local cinema. Let's see if they are willing to put on a screening of it. And we knew our friends and, people that we were sort of connected with felt the same way. So we went to our local cinema, said, hey, we want to put on this film. And they were like, yeah, cool. Absolutely. That's absolutely fine. And then we thought, look, we love this film so much. Like, how can we show people just how much we care about this film and how we can quote every line and how we know when to laugh at certain parts? And we thought, okay, there's maybe something more that we can do. Could we get, if you've seen the film, you'll know that there's rose bearers in the film who kind of adorn rose petals on people as they're walking. Could we do that for our audience? Could we potentially have a dance, a series of dancers outside welcoming people? Could we turn a cinema foyer into like a African arts and crafts, a marketplace with people selling, hair care products, skincare, all sorts, art. And we did all of those things. I mean, we had to beg, borrow and steal to make it happen. But we just thought, how can we create an experience that people won't forget? How can we show people just how important this film is for us culturally and emotionally? And that's how we got started. And I think that was only ever supposed to be a one-off to make ourselves feel better.
And that's amazing for a first event.
And it's turned into a whole career, which we're super thankful for. So
that sounds amazing and really interesting. And I'd love to know, you've been, working as part of We Are Parable for over a decade now. How has that original vision evolved and transformed over time?
So much. I think, like when we started, it was really about just, I guess, celebrating the films that we'd grown up with. And I think as we moved further into this industry, it really changed and transformed into, we're seeing films because we're in the industry, but these films aren't getting to audiences. So how can we be the kind of middle people to enable these films to be seen by audiences? And we know these audiences will love these films. So I think as time has progressed, we've kind of seen ourselves as the custodians of Black film and TV, and really being able to give audiences an opportunity to experience those films in a culturally relevant way. And we normally have experiences where it's, we might have spoken word and musical performances to really just enable that emotional connection to take place. So I think it's really about connecting these films with audiences and just allowing that emotional connection to take place and allowing audiences to not only find these films, but go and tell as many people as possible about these films.
Honestly, that's really great. And I think as much as all of the work that you've done sounds incredible, I can imagine there would have been some challenges along the way.
For sure.
Things that would have made it, difficult to get to where you are today. So what have been some of those challenges, and how have you managed to overcome them over the last decade and counting, really?
It's a really good question. I think, when we first started out, we really wanted to see how we could work on films that hadn't come out yet. So films that we knew were coming down the pipeline and we knew audiences would want to watch. So we'd go to particular studios that some of that you might heard of, some of the streamers. And when we were very much early on, they were just like, well, what do you guys do? Do you put a couple of balloons up and do you put a bit of music on and show a film? And we were like, well, no, we don't do that. And we had to really tell a narrative that made it clear for made it clear for clients exactly what we do for audiences and exactly what those audiences can do for the films. And I think the way we overcame that was through data, by showing that, you know, we could have sold out events, by showing how connected and how engaged audiences were when they came to our screenings, and just used every event that we put on. So whether it was a Love and Basketball event that we did in Bethnal Green, where we had a full court basketball court, to a screening of Do the Right Thing where we did a street party, using those events as kind of data and insight that we could then put in front of the clients and say to them, look how audiences are turning out for films that are like 20, 30 years old. Imagine what we can do with films that they don't know about, that they can champion, that they can really be advocates for. And I think it's taken a long time, but I think we have that, you know, we have that position in the industry where, you know, we're known for engaging audiences and captivating audiences and allowing those audiences to go out and tell more people about the film, which is essentially what we're all about, creating that, you know, really amplifying cinema, building community and celebrating culture is what I think we do really well.
And what has been your sort of secret sauce in terms of really engaging our community and really, you know, tapping into those audiences and making them feel that they're part of something bigger than themselves? Because there's a lot of film lovers out there. There's a lot of film lovers who love Black content in particular. So how have you managed to really flip the script on, you know, what major studios and streamers probably thought was possible in terms of reaching a community, and just tap in, make it your own, and just make sure that, you know, everything continues to thrive with We Are Parable? I
think the philosophy that we stick to as We Are Parable, and that we have done for the last 13 years, is what we say is experience over everything. So it's the experience of the audience, and it's to create that culturally relevant experience for our audience. So I mentioned Do the Right Thing and a street party. When we did Black Panther, we tried to think about what it'd be like for T'Challa, the character of Black Panther, to walk through the BFI South Bank. What would he expect to see? And we thought about, you know, there'd be some cosplayers, there'd be a Black comic superhero section where you could see all of the Black comic superheroes from, you know, yesteryear up until present day. We thought about how these moments are all about celebrating culture and how that leads to a culturally relevant experience for our audience. So I think for us, it's really about how do we provide the best experience for audiences. You know, our audiences have grown up, they're like in their 30s now, maybe they've got children, maybe they've got other responsibilities. So we take the fact that they have maybe sorted out childcare, or perhaps they've come like 5-10 miles to come to one of our screens. We take that really seriously, and we want to make sure that we provide them with the best experience possible, that, you know, again, celebrates the culture that they want to see on screen, that really makes them feel like they are part of a community, and that they make sure that they see cinema that reflects them, reflects their lives.
And that's really, really important. Like someone like myself, who's a massive lover of all things, just Black art across the board, but especially Black cinema, having experiences like that just reminds me of why I do what I do, why I'm into what I'm into. So having those experiences and those touch points is just amazing.
Absolutely.
And I think, speaking of working on big titles and with big studios, you know, you've worked with the likes of Netflix, Warner, Universal, like name them all, you worked with them. So how do you manage to balance maintaining your vision, maintaining your creative integrity, whilst also balancing the expectations of such big broadcasters and streamers?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's really about getting those clients to buy into the vision. And again, the only way we could do that is by evidence and showing how our audiences are growing. But I think for me, it was when we were speaking to these clients, it was trying to understand what they wanted to do by working with us. What were some of the challenges that they had? I think that's something I always work with. Like, what are the challenges that the client has, and how can we meet them halfway? And I think that's something that really helped for us. So when we spoke to, say, Netflix, maybe 5-6 years ago, when we first started working with them, it was, okay, we know your films aren't in cinemas for long, so how would you like to work with us? And they were like, well, while the films are in the cinema, we want them to have the biggest splash possible. So it was really easy for us to then be like, right, okay, so we know what we're going to do for this particular film. So there's a film that came out a few years ago called The Harder They Fall, with James Samuel, great film with Idris Elba and a number of other people. And you know, what we were able to do with Netflix is to have a kind of exhibition of the costumes from the film that we were able to like have on display to show our audience, and to, you know, for them to really get like a sense of like the craftsmanship that went into that film. And again, it was about, you know, really enabling audiences to talk about that and seeing that on screen, and then sharing that with their audience. And I think that was how we met Netflix halfway. They wanted to create a moment around their film, and then we could provide that with our community. So it's really about understanding where the shared values and where the shared goals lie, and then really just trying to go for that where possible. And I think that's something that it has served us really well over the years.
And that's good. And I think you can tell throughout, the course of having many clients that clearly something's working for you.
Yeah, for sure.
And speaking of partnerships and collaborations, talk us through the Momentum program. I know you've released a lot of information about it, but just bring some color to it. Tell us what it's about. How can people get involved? Why is it so valuable?
Sure. Let me take you all the way back to 2020. So obviously 2020 was a pivotal year in more ways than one. And I think what we saw is that, so many filmmakers were speaking to us and saying they're finding it really difficult. And there's filmmakers that we have got to know whose work we loved. And, because of all the relationships that we'd built with some of the studios and streamers, we just sat at home one day and we were like, there must be a way that we can connect some of the people who work for the organizations who we've been able to build really great relationships with the filmmakers that we know and love who are finding it really difficult. And then while we were thinking that, there was a report that came out by the Film and TV Charity, which said that of all the jobs possible in film and TV, like at any level, senior to junior, only 3% of them were populated by Black and brown people. Wow. And we just thought that was a shocking statistic. So the Film and TV Charity, sort of acting on this data, they made some money available for projects to really try and combat that and try and understand like what could be done to try and make it more accessible for Black filmmakers and brown filmmakers. So we came up with Momentum. The idea was that we were going to select 10 filmmakers. We were going to provide them with access to industry professionals through the connections that we'd made through a number of our clients. We were going to provide them with mentoring. And again, have I said mentoring already? I don't know if I've said that already. I have not. Okay. Yeah. So mentoring was something that we wanted to provide them with, again, using the individuals from those organizations. And then we wanted to provide them with mental health support. We thought at a time during COVID, during lockdown, it was so tough for so many people. And I think creatives found it tough in their own specific way, dealing with self-doubt, anxiety, sometimes depression, really thinking whether this is the right career for them. So we really wanted to partner with a psychological therapist to really try and work through some of those feelings of doubt or anxiety and so on. So we had this program in place. We got some of the, some money from Film and TV Charity to put these things in place. And we started off with 10 filmmakers. We then told the industry this is what we were doing. And the demand was so great that we had to increase the filmmakers from 10 to 20 because we had so many people coming back saying, I want to help. I want to do something.
That's amazing.
So we had 20 filmmakers to start off in 2020. Fast forward to 2021, we had Channel 4 get involved. We worked with them on the Black to Front campaign where they did a whole day of Black programming and Black ads during the ad breaks of the programs they were showing. And we partnered with them. A couple of years later, Sony Pictures came on board. And every year we had not 20 filmmakers, but 60 filmmakers. Wow. And those filmmakers who have been part of the previous iterations of Momentum are now in our alumni community. So we still track them, we still speak to them, making sure that they are really making their way through the industry. But essentially, Momentum is there to provide a visible and viable way in the industry for Black filmmakers. Essentially, that's what we're trying to do. And we're back for 2026 and we're super excited about it. Yeah, definitely.
And I think one thing that's really stuck out to me about this program is the mental health and the well-being aspect of it.
So
what's the kind of response that you've had from filmmakers and the industry as a whole to having this component as part of the program? Because when you look at, schemes that are comparable, there's not really much emphasis on this well-being aspect, but it's a really important part of everybody's daily lives, especially as a Black creative in an industry that you're not really represented well in. So what's been the response and feedback?
It's been incredible, honestly. I think that's really been the jewel in the crown. I think for filmmakers, I think it's one of the things when we read the applications, that's one of the things that really draws people to applying for this. I think again for our our partners, Sony Pictures and Channel 4. Again, that was a really important component for them as well, because I feel like it's really hard to create if you are in a, you know, in a period of like mental illness or mental struggles. And I think what, you know, we're not trying to say we can solve those for you, but perhaps there are some tools that we can put in place that help you to really try and navigate through those tough times. And I think yeah, it's something that I'm really proud of. I think the psychological therapist that we work with, Vanessa, shout out Inside Out, the company that she runs, who we've been working with for the last couple of years. She's been incredible at working with us to create a series of sessions that really do speak to the challenges that filmmakers have. And I think every year we've tried to like develop that and evolve that to a point where we try and meet filmmakers where they are and the different unique challenges that they have in the industry year by year. So yeah, it's been a really well received part of the program, and yeah, we're just super happy that it's been received in the way it has been.
Yeah, no, that's really good and encouraging to hear. And I think in terms of speaking of success stories, has there been any moments throughout the course of time that you've been running the Momentum program that you've really stopped and been like, wow, this is why we do what we do? Do any stories or particular people stick out to you? If so, like, share more with us.
Yeah, there's a couple. I mean, there's a wonderful filmmaker called Gift who had his film in Berlin. It won an award in the Berlin Film Festival. There's Kat White, who is an incredible polymath. She's a filmmaker, she's an author, she's working on her first feature film. There's Dean Leon Anderson, who has done some incredible work. He's now shadowing on a BBC TV series. And there's so many examples of, you know, filmmakers who are going through the process of, you know, they're either working together and met each other on the Momentum program, or they're going out and, you know, getting their shorts into festivals, you know, really starting to make waves within the industry. And I think it's really important to say that when we started Momentum, and, you know, we didn't want it to be like, okay, you're on this program for 6 months, and then at the end of it, okay, bye, see you later, out into the world you go, and we never talk to you again. It was about, you know, the reason we called it Momentum is that we wanted that perpetual movement, that continual movement to get filmmakers closer to where they want to be. And how can we leverage our standing within the industry, our influence within the industry, the connections that we have in the industry to make that happen. That's something that myself and Tiana are really passionate about. So, you know, I think, you know, some of the names I've mentioned are people that are now kind of like influencing the next generation of filmmakers. And I think that's what it's all about. It's about really having an open source approach to the knowledge and the information that's out there. How can the filmmakers who have been part of Momentum feed back to other filmmakers and really spread that knowledge in order so we all grow up the ladder together, you know?
And for someone who's, you know, hearing about this and they're quite interested in getting involved in the Momentum program, you've kind of touched on this holistically, but specifically, what practically can people expect to get involved in? Because it's not just a one-day affair, like you've mentioned. You're not going to kind of be like, oh, I'll see you later. This is a continuous thing, building that momentum, you know, with the Black creatives and the Black filmmakers. So practically, you know, first day in, what can people expect?
First day in, we've got a launch event. So you get to meet the other cohort, and you get to meet some of the alumni, as well as some of us, some of the mentors, Channel 4 and Sony. You'll get a chance to meet them. Then there's going to be a series of roundtables with writers, with directors, producers, some of the people that we know, some of the people that are part of the Channel 4 and Sony spheres of influence as well. So you really get a sense of the industry and the community in that industry. And then there's going to be 6 mentoring sessions. We're going to select a mentor for you based on the what you said in your application and what you're looking for. We're going to match you with a mentor. You'll have those 6 sessions. You'll also have the mental health sessions as well. And again, this is starting in May and going all the way through to February 2027. So there's going to be meetups. There's going to be masterclasses with, you know, esteemed individuals and colleagues who we've not only worked with, but people that we've just been adjacent to, that are really going to provide like I said, that viable and visible route into the industry, you know, from, you know, talking about the film business as a whole. Because I think there's a lot of people who have a talent of making film, but maybe don't understand the kind of mechanics of the film industry. So that's one of the first talks where we've got someone called Victoria Thomas, who is a filmmaker in her own right, but she also teaches the kind of the fundamentals of the film business, so people understand the world they're stepping into and what they need to do. It goes all the way through to a pitching session, or how to pitch, and then there's a pitching session at the end. So you're really being taken through all of the different aspects of the industry and how it potentially relates to you. So it is a big commitment.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, we're really committed in making this the best filmmaker development program in the world. I'm going to say it, the world. Let's
Go
say
for it, yeah.
And you know, I think it's really about seeing how we have created an impact within the industry, and I think we're very much on the way for doing that. So yeah, momentum. It's about keeping moving, you know. So yeah,
keeping that energy going
for sure.
No, really exciting to hear. And I think, speaking of your own personal journey with momentum, is there anything that you have learned along the years in terms of whether it be structurally or working with different clients, or even with the filmmakers themselves? What has been your key learnings from this whole process?
The importance of community. Okay. I think the importance of community, and I think I touched on it earlier about sharing what you know. Yeah. I think there's been too many times when maybe, you know, scarcity has kind of ensured that, you know, people keep that to themselves because they don't, you know, they're worried about there, you know, only being space for one of us. Yeah. And I think, you know, time and time again, we're shown that there's space for all of us. So I think the importance of community, because one of the things that is kind of like a lovely kind of benefit of momentum is like the fact that filmmakers, they'll meet each other. Then I think last time we did it, they set up a WhatsApp group literally on the launch of it. And the WhatsApp group, from what I know, is still active. They're working on projects together. They're understanding how they can be stronger together, as opposed to like trying to think about competing with the next person. So I think the importance of community and how filmmakers grow together. Yeah. So they don't feel like they're alone and they're struggling on their own. I think is just a beautiful learning that I've taken so much from, especially looking at We Are Parable holistically. You might think, if there's a competitor out there who gets to work on a film and we don't, you might start feeling a bit of a way. But actually now I'm like, no, there's enough space for all of us. And I think the seeing the filmmakers collaborate in the way they do has really helped me think about, you know what? There's plentiful. There's so much for everyone, as opposed to just thinking about yourself and thinking about one in, one out, you know?
It's part of like being the change that you want to see
Absolutely.
in the industry as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
for sure.
It's great to hear that. It's really encouraging as well. And in terms of this year's cohort, what are you hoping to see? Is there anything that you haven't seen so far that you're thinking, it'd be interesting to hear a filmmaker talk about this? Or what are you hoping to see from this year's cohort?
Looking to see a lot of passion, a lot of innovation. I'd love to see if there are any filmmakers who are working in maybe augmented reality. You know, I think it's a bit of a contentious issue around AI, but, you know, it'd be great to see how filmmakers are kind of embracing or maybe rejecting or maybe adapting to AI and what that means. And we're hopefully going to talk about that in a few sessions. But yeah, really want to understand how filmmakers are dealing with a very fast moving and changing industry, and what they're trying to do to kind of combat that. I'd love to sort of see how filmmakers are thinking about audience as well. I think that's something that we've really championed over the years, is saying, you know, you can make a film, but then people got to see it. So it's like, actually, how are you thinking about audience from a very early stage? And you might not have all the answers, but if you have some of them, I think that's something that really does have a kind of bearing on how we kind of view you and whether this is something that's right for you. And I think just having a plan for your career, like you might not have it all mapped out, but if you have a specific, you know, relevant, realistic goal that you want to hit, then it's like, cool, you might not know how to get there, but you have that. And I think that shows a level of strategic thinking that I think we can work with. We can find you the mentor that gets you closer to that. We can, you know, create masterclasses that really enable you to think about, you know, a specific part of your goal in a bit of a deeper way. So yeah, just looking for a sense of knowing where you want to be in your career. Maybe not having all the answers, but knowing what the North Star is. Yeah.
No, that's good. So if there's anyone watching out there, you've heard it from him. Exactly. So do what you need to do to make sure that you have that plan, make sure you have a clear understanding of where you're going, and just have creative and original ideas, I guess.
Sure.
So I think we spoke about the Momentum program. This might be a bit of exclusive. You might not have thought about this, but do you have any sort of other programs that you'd love to create, or any ideas for any programs coming up in the future?
For filmmakers?
Yeah, for filmmakers or just Black creatives generally.
We got a couple of ideas.
Okay.
Yeah, you catch me on a good day. We had a meeting. We've got our team. Our team are kind of based all over the UK. So we've got someone in Edinburgh. I've got someone in Birmingham. So we've got our team were kind of all around the UK. We came together and we had a bunch of ideas for our strategy day. And we've got some things coming up. I don't want to say too much. I'll get in trouble. But I think for us, it's really about really doubling down on experience for audiences. Making sure that they know that there's a place for them to experience Black cinema in culturally relevant, unique and memorable ways. Making sure there's a place where we amplify cinema, where we build community and we celebrate culture. Those are the things that I think are really important to us. Like when you walk into a cinema space, like you might not know anyone in the We Are Parable audience, but you feel seen and you feel like, and that's from walking into the door and just being greeted and saying hello. Just from someone asking you, how was the film? I really want to try and focus on those smaller interactions that our audiences have to make sure that the experience is as optimal and as great as it can be. So I think the events and screenings that we've got coming up, I think they're going to be a real leap forward in terms of what we want to do. We don't just want to do a screening and then everyone get out. It's like, no, how do we build that community? How do you feel like you are part of the tribe, which is what we're trying to do. So
Nice. I think I'm going to press you a little bit.
Okay. Yeah.
Are there any events that the audience can look out for or look forward to, or any sort of activations or activities that at present you can actually share? Just anything on?
We've got one coming up, and I can't say too much about it, but we're gonna celebrate filmmakers from another potentially another part of the world. Perhaps we do a lot of work in various countries in Jamaica and Colombia and Kenya, and something that we've been thinking about for a long time is how do we show films from filmmakers from around the global majority and bring them to London, and to do it in a way that feels authentic and really is a sort of point of discovery for audiences. Again, I feel like we're in a really privileged place where audiences trust the films that we put in front of them. So I really want to use that to, give a platform to filmmakers from different parts of the world. So that's something that we're really keen on doing. That's all I can say for now. We're probably going to have a couple of previews coming up very soon. There's a couple of films that are very much in our wheelhouse that we're really excited to be a part of.
I can imagine a couple of them.
Yeah, for sure. But there's definitely a couple in the line. So you can look out for that. Definitely.
No, I love that. That's great to hear. And I think speaking of, touching on, filmmakers around the world. I know that in the UK specifically, you're not just London centered. You've got, representatives up and down the country. How do you find sort of combining, with London being the sort of hub of entertainment and Black creativity, if you will, how do you find sort of combining what's going on in the different regions with what's going on in London? And how have you found navigating sort of the various different creative hubs?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and something that we thought about a couple of years ago. What we didn't want and what we never want to be is like, we're from London, so we're going to tell you Birmingham and you Glasgow how to run things. This is how we didn't want to do that. We wanted to make sure that if we were going to step into another community, that it feels authentic, that it feels specific, and that it feels intentional. And we knew that we can't do that if we don't come from Glasgow, if we don't come from Birmingham. So what we wanted to do with a project that we did a couple of years ago is to hire people that we call cultural curators, who are essentially people who are from that region, and who have access to the audiences that we're trying to reach. And essentially we would work with that person to create events that felt regionally specific. So let's say we were doing a screening of, let's say Sinners, for example. And perhaps you wanted to have a spoken word performer, rather than trying to get a spoken word performer from London to get on the train and go to Birmingham. The cultural curator could help us find a spoken word performer from Birmingham who could bring their audience, and for that event to feel very much like a Birmingham event. And I think we try and replicate that in different cities to ensure that these events feel like they are part of the fabric in the location that they're in. So I think for us, it was really important that we respect the communities that are there. And I think what's really great is that every time we've gone to a different part of the UK, it's like everyone's like, when are you coming back? Like, when are you going to come back and do some more things? And we're not, you know, we've got a project that we just finished called We Are Here, that we received support from the BFI, and we were able to provide like 4 months worth of cinematic programming for audiences in 4 different cities, which was incredible. So that's something that we're hoping to bring back. So we're able to provide that consistent programming of Black cinema for audiences. But it's there's so much regional specificity in each location.
Imagine, yeah.
So it's just about working with the cultural creator, listening to our audiences. I think that's so important, listening to your audience and then creating the best event possible. So it's very similar to what we do in London, but just using people, working with people, collaborating with people who have that regional knowledge to make that happen.
Yeah, that sounds super, super exciting and interesting.
Yeah.
And speaking of, you know, working with people from different regions, as you mentioned, you do a lot of work in Jamaica, Colombia, etc.
Yeah.
Is there any sort of future plans to extend what you're already doing in the UK out to those regions as well, and even more regions?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, we've got a really great relationship with Jamaica. Like, you know, I'm from Jamaica. My Tian, my wife is from Jamaica as well. So, you know, it's dream come true to do work out there. And we've built a community and a network of incredible filmmakers, as well as working with JAFTA, the Jamaican Association for Film and TV. So we're hoping to do a lot more there. We run a project called the Shot List, which is essentially a cultural exchange where we will select 5 to 7 short films by Black British-based filmmakers and show them in Kingston, Jamaica, and the team will get 5 to 7 films from Jamaican-based filmmakers, and we'll put on an event with talks, performances in Kingston to bring out the film community. That's something that we're not doing it this year, but we're going to hopefully bring it back next year for the 5th year, and just keep that going. And then I think, you know, in other locations, it's definitely something that's always on the cards. I think we are definitely keen to get on a plane and do some really cool things. So I think every time we do that, there's such a wonderful response. So I think there's definitely scope to do a lot more.
No, that sounds amazing, honestly. Really incredible. And speaking of, you know, the future as well, I know that now We Are Parable are dabbling into theatrical distribution.
Yes.
Is that something that you're going to continue to push? If so, how do you aim to do this?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely something we want to push. I think, you know, we're known for screenings and, you know, putting on events. And I think what we wanted to do is take the insight that we'd learned by what our audiences were telling us about the films they want to see, you know, the engagement that they were having. And we wanted to turn that into insight to help us select the films that we wanted to put into cinemas. And I think, you know, it gives us an opportunity to position films in the way that we think is going to be most beneficial for audiences. And I think that's a really exciting place to be. I think there's also films that we see we're very fortunate enough to see at festivals, and then they don't get picked up by distributors. So it means that, you know, vast amounts of audiences never get a chance to see them. However, with us, there's a very good chance that we could pick up that film and bring it to audiences, so it finds a community. So I think that's something that really excites me and the team, and Carmen, who heads up our distribution arm. It's really important for us to find those films and to bring those films to audiences in culturally relevant, unique and memorable ways, whilst building out our community and celebrating culture on screen.
And I can imagine it's probably been quite a journey getting into theatrical distribution. What is that process for you and your team in terms of picking out, you know, the various titles and deciding this is something that we want to work on? Is there sort of a criteria? If there's someone out there who's a filmmaker, you know, is there a possibility that they could get in touch with you? And what would you be considering when, you know, selecting these films to work with? Yeah,
it's a great question. There's quite a lot of factors that go into it. I think the hardest thing about working distribution, because I'm a film fan, I love film. I will sit there and watch like 5 films on a day if I could. Normally can't. But I think when it comes to distribution, you almost have to put your heart to one side and think with your head. You have to think about, you know, I won't name the film, but there's a film that I saw last year, which is one of my favorite films of the year. And it's just this really kind of densely packed, like immersive, beautiful, chaotic film that I love. But it's one of those films where, and there's 2 of those films that are very much like that. It's 2 of those films, and we just felt like we're not sure about the commerciality of this. Not because audiences wouldn't warm to it, but it's just a case of, will cinemas book it? Because if cinemas don't book it, then no one gets to see it. So we have to think about, okay, do we have enough marketing stories to put forward for us to be able to promote this film.
Yeah.
And we have to think about how we promote this film to audience, to cinemas, so they're able to book it. So those are some of the things that we have to think about. We have to think about the commerciality of it. Our audience is primarily Black women between the ages of 25 to 34. So that's a very big sort of cohort of our audience. So we want to serve our audience first and foremost. So, you know, films, I think that, you know, that have Black women at the center, either in front of the camera or behind it, again, is a really important factor. Not a sort of like a be all and end all, but it's something that we definitely consider. And I think local stories with a global focus is something that we that we very much focus on. I think the 3 films that we've released, so Earth Mama, which won a BAFTA, which we're very proud of.
Congratulations.
That was incredible. Benel and Adama, which played in competition at Cannes, and then last year we had Dreamers. Those 3 films were all written and directed by first-time feature filmmakers.
Wow.
It just so happened that, you know, Savannah Leaf, Ramata Tulasi, and Joy Guerrero Akpojasor were all making their first feature, and they you know, we managed to distribute their films.
That's amazing.
But I think what's really interesting about the films that they wrote and directed is that they had really strong, like, you know, really assertive female protagonists at the heart of each one of those stories. And you know, we talk about it in the team all the time. It's not a coincidence that those films really do resonate with our audience. So I think we are looking for, you know, nuanced stories and stories that kind of represent us in the everyday, you know? Yeah.
That's really, really important. And that's something that I'm really big on highlighting with Flip the Script, you know, stories that are really authentic,
absolutely,
that are nuanced, that feel like a breath of fresh air. I think there's enough of the same type of tropes and storylines. So highlighting things that are truly different is something that we're really, really big on this platform.
Amazing.
And, you know, we've spoken about distribution, we've spoken about programs that you're looking into.
Yeah.
I think beyond all of that, is there anything else that, you know, We Are Parable that are not doing at the moment that you would be doing in the future?
You're going to get me in trouble. You're going to get me in trouble.
I'm really trying here, guys.
I feel there are a few things, definitely. I think, you know, we're always asked about, you know, do you guys want to move into production and start, you know, actually telling stories yourself? And I think it's something that, I'll be honest, it's something that I'm thinking about. Whether the rest of the team are thinking about, I'm not sure. But I think it's one of those things where, you know, it will if it's meant to happen, it will happen. I think at the moment we've got our hands full with, you know, the exhibition side of things, the screenings that we do, momentum and distribution. People have spoken about, oh, are you gonna, you know, run your own cinema one day? Again, it's something that we've spoken about. There are a lot of elements that are involved in that. And again, maybe one day that can happen. But like I said, I feel like we are in a really wonderful place, and I think there's so much yet to be done with the screenings that we do, with the filmmaker program of Momentum. And, you know, although these things are doing really well, we still see like elements where it can grow, where it can scale, where potentially, you know, we take Momentum to another country and we work with filmmakers, and perhaps there's a global network of Black filmmakers that we can connect via Momentum. So those are things, you know, thinking about international work as well, and how we perhaps replicate some of the things that we've created in the UK and, you know, scale it across, you know, the global majority is something that I'm incredibly excited about. So yeah, watch this space.
Nice. We're going to take that as an exclusive.
I didn't say anything. I said, watch this space. It may happen. It may not. You know, I'm not
going global.
No, I'm not. I ain't got a crystal ball. It could, you know, we never know. You never know.
But honestly, you'd love to see that. I think, especially from a diaspora perspective, it'd be amazing to just have a platform that just connects everyone, shares their different stories, and and really just feeds into that community that already exists and is just looking to grow bigger and bigger. Yeah,
for sure. I think there's so many people like doing great work.
Yeah.
And I think it just requires a few of us to connect, and then just to see how we can widen the connections amongst us, because I think everyone is doing things in their own circle, and the internet has kind of made it, you know, easier for us to really reach out to one another. So I think it's really about doing the audit and what's out there, and how we can collaborate with people in the most effective way. So yeah, I'm really excited about the possibilities of that, and how we connect with different organizations around the world, for sure.
Amazing. And speaking of great work, are there any projects that you've worked on that really, really stand out to you over the last decade or so that you've loved being a part of, and that really just highlight the success of what you're doing with We Are Parable?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the shot list, you know, doing that in Jamaica, I think the first time we did that, like, I remember the British Council saying to us, "Oh, do you want to do an event in Jamaica?" And we were like, "Yeah, of course, like let's do it." And I think what's really interesting that, you know, 5 years later, it's turned into its own brand. Like, whenever we go to Jamaica to do it, we get like interviewed on national TV and talk about it the weekend before, so people know it's coming, and it's really something that is a staple in the Jamaican filmmaking calendar, and I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud that something from, you know, where my mum and my dad are from, and that we're doing something on home soil. And, you know, like I say this all the time, when I think maybe 2024, when I went to Jamaica in that year, I remember landing and feeling like, oh, I'm home. And it just felt like, I'm home, not only because it's the home of my parents and my grandparents, but it just feels like, yeah, I'm going to see people who were collaborators but are now friends and are, you know, all trying to do the same thing. And yeah, I'm just really proud of the community that we've been able to build out there. I'm really proud of the shot list as a brand, as a kind of entity. And I'm just really excited that a lot of people from the UK know it and sort of come out. And one thing I didn't mention about the shot list is that we often bring out a filmmaker with us who's based in the UK, who jumps on a plane with us and talks about their work. And, you know, we've been able to do that a couple of times, and that's really special. And I feel like it just really, we're able to show the similarities and differences that exist between the UK scene and the Jamaican scene. And we're also just able to show that, yeah, it's just about hopping on a plane and finding your community like around the world. So yeah, that's a project that I'm immensely proud of.
That's really great to hear, especially that feeling of being at home and being able to kind of share the creativity and the great work that you're doing here, also back on home soil. That's amazing. That's incredible. So now we're going to do a quick fire round.
Okay.
Isn't going to be anything too crazy.
Okay. All right. I'm ready. I'm going to adjust myself in the seat. Okay, let's go.
I'm just going to delve into your personal taste.
Okay. When you said, I'm so glad you said taste. I'm just going to delve into your personal life. Ask you some very... Okay, cool. All right. Okay.
So yeah, don't really think too long about it. We want short, sharp answers.
Okay.
So you ready to begin?
Yes. Okay, let's go.
Okay. So first question is, what is the first film that made you think, I want to get involved in the industry?
Oof, that is a great question. I'm going to say Do the Right Thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask why?
Just because I feel like how that film starts, like I remember watching that film, I was trying to watch Match of the Day and I got a bit bored. So I was flicking through the channels. I went on BBC Two and this film was about to start called Do the Right Thing. I'd never heard of it. And if you've seen that film, the way it starts with Rosie Perez dancing, I'm like, oh, I have never seen a film start like this before. Like, what is about to happen? Like, what? And when I was watching that film, I was just like so blown away by Spike's use of music, his use of, you know, props like the Air Jordans getting scuffed up, you know, the music, you know, Fight the Power running all the way through it, you know, the end of the film with the quotes by Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. So many things and so many techniques and tools and devices that he used in that film that, you know, my 12-year-old self watching that film had never seen. And I was like, oh, I didn't know you could do half of this stuff in film. And, you know, I think the most recent time I felt like that was when I saw Sinners. And the scene where they're in the juke joint and all of the different musical figures from generation to generation are swirling around in that moment. I'm like, oh, that's a reminder you can do whatever you want in cinema. And yeah, I think that's just such a wonderful thing. And it's a film. Do the Right Thing is a film that I always go back to. I watched it the other day and I still love it to pieces, you know?
Yeah, it's a classic.
Yeah.
It really, really is. Okay, and then my next question is, what is a Black British film or TV show that you think deserves way more credit than it's actually gotten?
Oof, that is a great question. Can I pick two? Can I pick a TV show and a film?
Yeah, go for it.
I think it's got a decent amount of praise. I would love it to be like... I would just love it to have like the just the pomp and everything around it. But Dreaming Whilst Black is a TV show that I love. We know Ajani quite well. He was one of the creators that we brought to Jamaica for the shot list. And it's just incredibly well written, very smart, very funny piece of work, and I love how he expanded the world in season 2, and I'm really excited for a season 3. So it's a show that I think it's found its audience, and I really hope that the powers that be really get behind it and support that show, because I think he's doing something that's so subversive but so funny and so creative, and it's something I can watch with my mum and watch with my friends, and he's done just an incredible incredible piece of work there, and it's something that I really want to see happen more for him.
Super relatable.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And in terms of the film,
Black British film, this is such a good question. I think a film that I would love more people to see would probably be Second Coming by Debbie Tucker Green. Idris Elba and Nadine Marshall, I believe. And yeah, that film is just a real kind of lyrical, dramatic, like slow burn of a film. And I don't want to say too much about it, but it's so wonderfully acted and performed and written. And I think I've never seen Idris Elba in a role where he's really gone into himself. And I think people will be quite surprised that he kind of has that level of performance in him. So yeah, I think that's the film that I'd really love people to see. And her second film as well, Ear for Eye, which is again a challenging piece of work, but no less impactful. And I think, Debbie Tucker Green, please come back to films. Please, we miss you. We want to see more films from you. But like, she's one of the greatest creatives. I mean, she started out as a playwright, started moving into film, and I genuinely believe she is one of the greatest talents we have in this country. And I want her to receive her flowers on a grand scale. So yeah, Second Coming. I think it's on streaming platforms. So yeah, do check that out if you can. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so what would you say is the biggest myth about working in the creative industry?
That is well paid. No, I'm joking. No, no. What's the biggest myth? That's a really good question. That everyone's out for themselves. Okay. I feel like there is a community. If you're willing to find it, there is a community of people who will shout for you, who will shout for you, who advocate for you, who will support you. It doesn't have to be this kind of like dog eat dog. It's very much like, we found people that literally will just go over and above for you and don't expect anything in return. So I feel like there is a community. You got to just work hard to find it, but it is out there.
That's very wholesome.
Yeah, it's not all bad, guys. We're not all bad. Yeah.
So I think sometimes creatives get a bad rep. So,
yeah, definitely. No, there's a community out there for sure.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so finish the sentence. The UK film industry will truly change when?
The UK film industry will truly change when momentum isn't seen as a revolutionary thing. Okay. When we can say we have true parity, when we can say we have true equity, when we can honestly say that we have, not only diversity, but true inclusion. I always hear people say that diversity is like being invited to the dance, but then inclusion is being invited to dance when you're there. And I think this country can be very good at patting itself on the back about the first part, the diversity. Well, yeah, there's loads of black people. What are you talking about? But then it's like, actually, well, what does that mean when we're in those rooms? Yeah. Like, how are we treated? How do we feel? And I feel like until momentum, because momentum is when people talk about it, like, oh my God, it's incredible. And it is. Yeah. I'll back my stuff. It's great, but it shouldn't be as revolutionary as it is. It shouldn't be as groundbreaking as it is. We should have parity when it comes to black filmmakers making work at the same level as their white counterparts. And until the film industry isn't going to change until momentum and other projects like it and other initiatives aren't seen as these special kind of unicorns. They're just seen as something that happens within the industry, or maybe they're not even needed. That's that, that we have parity on that stage where they're not even needed because everyone has an equal opportunity, a true equal opportunity. So maybe I'm talking myself out of work, but I think that's the important thing,
And I'm just going to jump off of that. What do you think will take to actually make that change? Is it more programs like Momentum? Is it sort of industry leaders getting on board and really buying into things like this?
Yeah.
Or is it, Black creatives taking ownership of their own content and intellectual property? What do you think will really push that change from your perspective?
I think it's all of the above.
Okay.
Honestly, I know it's a bit of a cop out of an answer, but I think you need Black creatives like who are going to take that ownership. I think you need independent organizations such as us who do the work that we do. I think you need Black people within institutions trying to make the change on that side. I think, it's one thing to be like, okay, I'm just going to run away from an institution. I'm not going to work with them because something's happened. But, when we're not represented at all, like what's going to happen then? So I feel like there are different ways to skin a cat in many ways. And I think you need Black people at every level.
Yeah.
But we all need to be pulling in the right direction, in the same direction to really enable this change to happen. We can't be thinking a one in, one out, which I know there are still factions of the industry who still feel that. So I think we have to be looking at things and thinking about true equity and what that means and speaking to one another, not being afraid to actually reach out and be like, oh, how are you finding things over here? What's your experience of this particular environment? Like, how are we working together and talking to one another to ensure that we are making it better for, the generation coming behind us?
Yeah.
I think that's really important. Yeah,
most definitely. And I think it's just to wrap up, it's been a great conversation around, community and the work that you're doing. If you have sort of one final message to share with our audience around whether it's the industry as a whole, what We Are Parable doing, or the Momentum program, what would that message be?
Back yourself. Honestly, back yourself. Don't be small. The world is not meant for you to be small. Like, talk your ish, man. Like, honestly, we really want people that understand their place in this industry. We really want people to really think about the next couple of years and what that looks like. And I think it really is about not being small, not playing small. We're not meant to be small. We're wonderful Black folk, man. We're supposed to shine.
That's a really lovely message to end on. So if people want to find out a bit more about the program or find out what We Are Parable up to next, where can they find you and where should they be looking?
For sure. So you can go to our website, which is weareparable.com. You can find us on Instagram at We Are Parable and on TikTok at We Are Parable. And sign up for our newsletter or our database, and you'll receive our newsletter, some giveaways, some competitions, announcements about the next events. So you make sure you're on that as well. So you can find out next one. Perfect. So that's how you can get in touch with us, for sure.
That's amazing. Well, that's a wrap for today's episode. Thank you so much, Anthony, for joining us. It's been really great to hear about your journey and your insights as well. Make sure that you're following Flip the Script UK on all platforms, and make sure you comment, subscribe, share this to someone, share this to a Black creative, a filmmaker, or anyone who you think might take something from today's episode. And we'll see you next time.